Where are you now? Where are you now? Hey, it's been too long. Dun, 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 dun. Playing switch out of mine. I see myself on the camera. Da, 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 na, 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 na. Okay, can see that's rocking. That is going good. What up to everyone in the chat, if there is anyone at this stage? Doesn't particularly look like it. But then we just started. Not too much news on my front. As you'll hear in the meanderings next week, I've had a pretty rubbish week. Not so fun. And it's weird when I get into a mood where I'm like, I almost want the self-destruction. I want to wallow in my own self-pity. So I'll take longer showers and play Linkin Park. I was playing Linkin Park at the park today, one. Na 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 na. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I need to do another quick one. Linkin Park at the park. Gotta share this link. And I'll share this on the Twitter as well. Okay.
I've only been trying for about 1 hour and 13 minutes to connect the Google Chromecast.
What is Google Chromecast?
Work. It's where you can basically just like share your phone screen to the TV using a Google app thing.
Okay.
Keeps finding it. Then it keeps not wanting to connect to the Wi-Fi, and then the Wi-Fi's dropped out 4 times in the last hour.
Yeah.
I'm like, good.
Good.
That's what I wanted to do.
One, we're now live officially on YouTube.
Yeah, good.
Okay, well, we've got 1 minute, so I'm going to lead this one. Done. I've sent all the links out everywhere. That stuff is sounding pretty good. Today we're talking... what's a question I should ask? Related to the downfall of crypto. I'll ask them, what's their best anti-crypto argument?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, that all sounds pretty good. That stuff's rocking there. I just need my notes up. And then I can kick this bad boy off. Mere models. Here we go. All right. We're both in camera. Let's do it. Here we go.
We all can be mortals, capable of mistakes. The journey's not here to be agonized upon.
I still am just constantly amazed that is something they created before they even heard of us.
Before us.
Signs of new growth for the intro there, people. Welcome everyone to a Mere Mortals musing episode. This is where we pick a theme, a topic, and we get a little bit deeper into it. It's a little bit more structured than our meanderings one.
Yep.
You've got Kyron on this side of the
Juan on the other end.
Oh shit, Juan coming in hot. I love it. And today we're going to be talking about the downfall of crypto. So the reason this came up was because I've been looking at some sort of anti-crypto stuff in the past while, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. Just a quick reminder here at the start, this is a value for value podcast, so if you're enjoying it, we recommend that you go to one of the new podcast apps, choose one with value, and show how much you hate crypto by giving it all to us. So that's if
you don't believe in it, just give it to us. We'll take good care of it for you.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I'll get into my first section here, which was I realized I don't know what triggered this, but I realized, Karen, you're pretty pro crypto at the moment. You're listening to a lot of crypto podcasts.
Yep.
You're talking about it a lot on your own podcast. You should probably take a little bit of a step back. You're investing a lot of money into it. You should probably take a step back and just make sure you're not going to do anything silly here. Because, you know, even though I am a mere mortal, just like all of us, and I have all the same tendencies to, you know, ape into things, to be greedy, to feel all of those, I suppose, baser emotions that you might not particularly want. Or things that you can't particularly do about. And yeah, I realized, okay, now let's use some rationality here. Let's try and take the other side of the argument. So I went to a bunch of Twitter things. Anti-crypto critics is what I was trying to...
What's that guy's name on Twitter? I forget his name.
Which
the guy
one?
that always like bags on...
oh, there's tons of them, man. There's Justin Bonds.
There's one main guy who I guess he's on mine. I'll find him.
Okay, you find him. Anywho, I found a bunch of them, and you can go to the episode that we did of Meanderings not too long ago, which was talking about all of these things. I think it was like 4 episodes ago, so it was around the 301, probably sounds about right. And I just went, okay, I'll investigate a bunch of these, and a bunch of them were really crap. And I talked about how I found, you know, like Nouriel Roubini. I butchered his name in the last one as well. Nouriel Roubini, who's like a, you know, guy who's won the Nobel Prize in economics and things like that, and he's talking shit about it. And then Bill Gates was not particularly a fan. Warren Buffett, not a fan. Peter Schiff, not a fan. There was a whole bunch of really shit arguments and really shit debates. But I found a couple of gems, which I thought were worthwhile.
Worth talking about.
And there was a couple of things that I did get thinking about and going, okay, this is how the downfall of crypto could happen. This is how I don't particularly believe it will, but if it was going to happen,
it was going to happen in this way.
It's going to happen in this way, and I'm going to share that just for the world, I guess, so that if other people agree, tell me I'm correct or wrong. And then also as just a sort of cementing for myself, being like, okay, if I see these sort of things happening, I really need to like reevaluate my premises of why I think it's a good thing in general. Fair. So have you got any topics that you want to and any thoughts just on that? Have you done much research into the downfall? Okay,
well, I wouldn't say zero. I mean, I'd say there's that particular video that I shared with you, which is like a 2-hour long one, but it was more specific to NFTs themselves, and it was a early this year January piece video, which the guy's name escapes my mind, but it was a well-researched, I guess, and well-articulated 2-hour video as to maybe some of the deficiencies of Bitcoin and Ethereum and crypto in general, but then went heavy into NFTs and definitely some of the negatives on it. But I think we've talked about it off the podcast. But one of the things I saw, like the trend in that one and in some others, is just the sheer like arrogance behind, well, look how dumb this
it's
must
decentralized.
Be. We'll see how dumb this must be in comparison to what they say. So there was that. But I have checked out at more things, I guess. There's more things I've been looking into that are not pro cryptocurrency.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, that sounds good. Well, I'm going to start off with, I think, a couple of recommendations for things that if you're interested in going down this path, that would be worthwhile. And there, in particular, there's 3 videos that I found. And once again, these weren't the like Fox 5-minute snippets. No. They weren't the guy randomly on Twitter using his, I don't know how many characters, 256 characters to blast someone, to put it on blast. No, it was pretty well thought out, calm, rational arguments as to why. So there was 3 that I found. One was from A16Z. So if you don't know who that is one of the biggest venture capital firms who invest into crypto. They're Andreessen Horowitz is their name. And I don't know why they use A16Z. I should probably figure that out. Anywho, they had a
I do know the reason as to why, but
they had a YouTube channel. It's been kind of dead for a while, but they had 2 people from it that were in a debate in Mexico. Yep. One was Katie Haun. Do you recognize that name?
Nope.
Okay, you might when I talk about it in a second. And the other was Paul Krugman. Do you know him?
Who?
Paul Krugman.
No.
Okay, once again
don't know by name.
So Paul Krugman was and I said, I got a little note for myself here that I should read the YouTube comment, I guess that
triggered it?
No, not the YouTube comments. Sorry, I mean the description of what it actually is.
Gotcha.
Because that
And
could
for those,
be
by the way, playing
enlightening.
at home, that A16Z means, because the name Andreessen Horowitz starts with an A, ends with a Z, Horowitz, and it's the 16 letters that are between the name.
Okay,
So it's
there you go.
A16Z.
All right,
So-
that's kind of random.
I
but,
remembered it was
yeah.
something like that. I couldn't remember. It was something to do with the alphabet or the letters in Andreessen Horowitz.
Yep. So it says let's settle this debate hosted by blah blah blah. It's between general partner Katie Haun. So she was one of the people who's a general partner high up in the firm, and you'll
A16Z.
and you'll recognize her because she was on the Tim Ferriss podcast. She used to be the leader of the task force of the US, like general attorney sort of office level,
Yeah, okay.
cracking
Yeah,
down
I
on.
do remember
She was
that
the one
podcast.
trying to crack down on the Silk Road.
Yes. Yeah, I remember that
where they
story.
had
The
FBI
library and
agents,
stuff like that. Yeah.
2 FBI agents who were secretly, doing shady things, who were on the task force, and they were the ones using crypto as well.
Yep. Okay. No, that's cool. I remember that.
So a lady who's not only very knowledgeable about it, but has all of the reasons to be anti-crypto, but she got swayed by the general sentiment arguments of why it's a good thing,
True.
even though she
Good
had her job literally depended on it being a bad thing. Then the other one was Paul Krugman, Nobel Prize winning economist, and so he's just well known in the economy world. So he, of course, will talk about cryptocurrencies.
Yep.
And it just came across as really mature in a way, and this was published in November 3rd, 2018. So it's not particularly recent. And I think a couple of the arguments that they made in there, particularly Paul Krugman, were not. It's a bit further beyond that now. Like they don't particularly make sense, but it just in general, I found that everyone came out of the better for it. I respected her, I respected him, and was like, okay, this is like a proper way to have a debate. So,
So it was a good debate that was had.
So there was nothing. Once again, there was nothing in there that I would particularly say is the downfall of it. Most of his arguments were related to crime again, which I don't think holds up. I don't think cryptocurrency is the preferred method for criminals based on the research I've done, just because it's all there, and you can once you have the data to and it's viewable for everyone, that's when there's really smart people and the algorithms and stuff can be like, let's chase this Bitcoin down and find out where it went.
Exactly where it is. Yeah.
Whereas it's a bit harder when it's
cash
going through multiple laundering services in the Mexican cartels, and they pass it here and there, and then it's like, geez, I don't even know where this stuff begins and ends. So that was a good one. Another one, which was what Bitcoin did. So this was called Critiquing Bitcoin with Francis Coppola and Nick Carter. For those, I hadn't heard of her before. Nick Carter, he's a Bitcoiner maxi. So he's been on Lex Fridman before. I remember listening to him. There were some interesting ethical arguments about how some people, some Bitcoiners in particular, so this was just on Bitcoin, would talk about how it's like ethical. Bitcoin is righteous in a way, as if it has a moral underpinning to it as well, rather than it just being a tool. And she was saying, I don't get where this moral goodness comes from it. It's a tool. I can sort of recognize that and see that, and tools can be used for good and bad. And she was more leaning towards, I think it's going to be more on the bad side. And then the constant one, and this is one that I find pretty valid, is Bitcoin a store of value, or is it a peer-to-peer payment transfer system? And this is one I struggle with a bit, because I do both. I invest in it, and I think it's going to go up in the long term, and I send sets out every day and Boostagram people. So I don't know. Have you thought much about? I know you're more broad rather than looking at the fundamentals of Bitcoin. But if you were using a money, do you think you can hold those sort of two ideas in your head and believe both of them, or think both can be true?
No, for some reason in my mind, I don't think they can be true. I don't think that both can be true, in the same way that I can't see that if you fractionalize your property, that you would pay in small property small property bundles if you could utilize that as money to peer-to-peer. I don't see that being utilized. That's why there was something that I read. It was like proof of work is money and proof of stake is credit, in a sense that proof of work would be money and you might not spend it, I guess. Well, the way they were terming it money, but the way I thought it was like, well, you wouldn't utilize it as like transactional, but then you would use any in the proof of stake or something else to actually be a transactional and you're moving around money. When I get and I see at the moment the value of having, say, you're paying or transacting peer-to-peer with, like, say, Satoshis, and you've also got Bitcoin as being a store of value. But I don't know. At least maybe I'm looking at it as what crypto is right now and the volatility of it. I just go, I can't picture that really working long term. I don't see that working long term. And then we think currently, like, say, cash. Well, it does. It is volatile in a way. It does move up and down, not to the same degrees and perhaps not to the same growth levels that you'd expect some of these assets to do. So I don't know. For some reason, I can't hold both of them in my mind as sort of be active things. Like I either see it's like it's going to be one thing or it's going to be the other. Like it's either I would see it Bitcoin being like, okay, it gets to a certain price and it just then very much stabilizes and then go for your money. Then it's peer-to-peer because it's kind of just, it's stable. It's stable enough that you can use it to those transactions. But if it has the ability to be like $1 million coin and then a $10,000 coin and then $1 million coin and $10,000 coin, then I don't see how that's going to work effectively, how people would really want to operate P2P with it when you can just hold it as an asset.
Yeah. So my sort of thoughts on this are I can't do it because I'm doing it now. So in my mind, that's not an issue. That because I guess it gets down to the argument would be the only rational thing to do is if you believe it's going to go up in value, you store it. And so you never spend it. And so there's no economy actually going in general. Now, my sort of argument against that is, yes, that's true when it's being like there's a competing one, I guess, like the cash or the US dollar in this case, or fiat in this case, I should say. But in this case, I sort of feel it's like, imagine just fiat went away entirely, and I had no option. I was kicked out of my banks, and I could only have crypto, and in particular Bitcoin. I sort of think I'm still going to spend money, but maybe it will be like reduced in a sense. So I'm still going to need to pay for essentials. Like it doesn't. I don't care. I won't care if my Bitcoin is worth 10x in a year if I can't eat. That sort of level of rationale. So my sort of argument would be on a personal front. I think I'm totally okay with that. I think if I was just purely Bitcoin, I could know, yes, I want to store it and hold it and save it, but I'll still spend it on things and the essential things.
Yeah. For
an economy, yes. I think I think in that case, that would make it too hard with volatility.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, like, when I think about it, like, I think you can make the case that you can have both P2P and you can have holding it as an asset between individuals or even in groups, right? The whole of the Value for Value chain, the 7,000 and whatever podcasts on the Value for Value, right, platform as a whole, utilizing it and changing with each other. So they obviously believe that probably 80% of people on there believe that Bitcoin can be an asset, but they're also utilizing it to share value. And so they are using peer-to-peer. But yeah, when you amplify that to the entire economy, I would find it hard pressed because you can imagine, let's just say again, we say fiat goes away. So you pay in Bitcoin or Satoshis to say, whatever, a shop. What if that, you could rightfully see that maybe a shop owner would be like, actually, no, this is better just holding it. Why would I pay my third parties or whatever, anything with this? What if I just try to hold as much as possible and pay in some other way? Credit, right? What if I go in credit, be like, I will pay you in 2 years or whatever, or I'll get a loan from X bank. It doesn't have to be fiat in something else. Maybe I just don't see that. I don't see the current mindset of like, if it's going to be a growth asset that could go up quite a lot and drop quite a lot, that the whole economy would take onto that. Or if it did, and you did somehow do like peer-to-peer payments with it, then things would get so wild. Like you would, like imagine if you'd bought a car 3 months ago or something like that with Bitcoin, and it was worth like a ton load, so you'd give it to them, and then now it's worth like whatever, half, and then they had to then pay back their loan of the previous 3 months, and all of a sudden it's like, well, now we don't even have the money for it, and then they go bankrupt, and then what's going on? So I think
Agreed.
There'd be some difficulties in economy-wide utilization.
For sure. And I think this is where it's, and we're pretty much just focusing right now on just Bitcoin, because it's really the only one that I think both of us would agree is the only one that really has a shot of being like money. True. In essence, except for maybe a stable coin. I don't know if you've your thoughts on them, to be honest. But yeah, I would sort of say if it's a good argument in the sense that if things continue as they keep going now for the next 20 years, and there's no sort of dampening of the volatility. Now, obviously, Bitcoin can't 10x or 100x every year like it sort of has been doing, because it'll very quickly not be able to do that. Like it'll just get to a point where it's like, oh, it's already at the top. And how much further can it go? Well, we don't even have anything to price it in, because US dollars or whatever don't matter anymore. Fiat doesn't matter. So I actually do wonder, if it got to the point where one Bitcoin was, 10 million US, isn't it at that point that Bitcoin is just very valuable, and we just agree that it's all very valuable, and there's not even a number to put on it. So then it's just, okay, we have the 21 million, let's just use them. So I don't know, that's a little bit of a hard one to do. And the last one I want to recommend as well would be the Bankless podcast. So this was the proof of work versus proof of stake debate with Lynn Alden and Justin Drake. And both of these people, I would say, are very pro crypto, but they're both also like anti proof of work and anti proof of stake. And they make, so it's sort of anti crypto in a way, the way it's framed, because they'll be shitting on
proof of work and proof of stake.
Yeah, and so it sort of sounds like both are shit. But they also give arguments as to why their side is better. But that's just a really good one as well. I found both of them made really good arguments, and I didn't come out of it being like, oh, both systems are shit. It was sort of just like, okay.
Just seeing all the pros and the cons of each system.
Yeah. And once again, it sort of made me leaning more towards, okay, yeah, you'd want proof of work for a money, but not for all the other things.
Yeah, fair.
So yeah, those are just my sort of recommendations for people who are interested in that. I think we should maybe jump to some of the comments in the chat.
Okay.
And then I'll give some other couple of learnings that I've taken from all of these as to my personal thoughts on how the downfall could go.
Good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in the chat we have, who do we have over here? So we have Liam, Joey, and I see Justin, and even Identity for us in there as well. So they were saying it's unregulated and unprotected by government. And he was actually asking about one of those thick sized shirts. One, we need to hit him up. Joey says because Kyron invests in it, and he is a silly duffer. Very good. Because it looks like you pulled out all your hair after investing in crypto. Damn, just ragging on me. Okay, I am. Yeah, the guidepost. If you see Kyron talking about something, that's a good way. Justin from Zen Garage, he says, honestly, crypto has never smelt right to me. I've had friends tell me they were investing into it over the years, and I've always shied away from letting them know what I really think. And then Liam also says the large amount of pump and dump scams. I
think SafeMoon at the moment is getting sued.
Is it?
The entirety of SafeMoon as a structure
that would
getting
make
sued.
sense. That would make sense. Liam also says concerns that crypto hold the same characteristics as a Ponzi scheme.
Well, I was going to say, actually, there was one more video that I would recommend people to just go see it, to see the very opposing view of it, which was the one that we watched from Folding Ideas, which is called Line Goes Up, the Problem with NFTs.
Yeah.
And it's a lengthy 2 hour.
So it's not just on NFTs.
It's not just on NFTs.
Probably the first third covers just
cryptocurrency, like Bitcoin specifically, Ethereum specifically as well. And again, it does go into a lot of conversation around why it does have the comparisons to Ponzi schemes. What are the deficiencies in Bitcoin? What are the deficiencies in blockchain in general, in Ethereum, etc. And then goes hard at the paint a lot of NFTs, which I do agree. There's a lot of things in the NFT space, which if anybody who's been keeping up to date in NFTs, especially in the Ethereum world, has been just taken over the last couple of weeks by goblins and little shit NFTs and crazy stuff that have just been free and all of a sudden are worth like all this money. It's like just madness. But that one does go into some opposing views, although in a bit of a narrowing way, but in a pretty well informed way, I guess. It doesn't do a good job of showing the positives that do come from it, but it certainly goes hard and demonstrates what are some of the negatives behind it.
That almost gets to Justin's point of it not smelling right. I think when I hear about things like that my bullshit smell detector and my sense of smell is shit people, and even I can smell that as being like, whoa, okay, I huge transfers of wealth like that with no sort of like underlying basis to it gives me a bit of the
what's going on here?
This is bad sort of thing, or this is going to blow up somehow. I think most of the other things they said are absolutely valid concerns, but for me it gets to the trade-offs, and it's almost like, if you in 1997 could look 20 years into the future to 2017 and see what we're bitching about now, which is relatively same as now, censorship on the internet, free speech platforms, there's no free speech on there. We're all being conditioned to like, and we're sort of being monkeys and doing all those things. You'd be like, yes, but that's just one of the trade-offs for having all the information, all of the benefits of logistics improvements, of communication across the world, instantaneous, of all being able to have farmers in Africa have the same knowledge of crop rotation and the best science everywhere, that sort of things. And you just go, okay, that's a worthy trade-off. I sort of see that as like that. The Ponzi schemes and the scams, yes, it's going to happen. And
absolutely,
it's just a trade-off for this new thing that's coming through that I personally believe will revolutionize the way we interact with each other, and also create and how we even just view value in general, I suppose.
Yeah, and I think often that particular, because I did find that thread quite a bit of people saying, well, what about the scams? And what about the Ponzi schemes? And what about the rug pulls? And what about people losing all the money? And this isn't to say that it's like a pro-Y blockchain or Bitcoin or anything like that, but it's just a comparison of, well, if we can reminisce back to probably the initial days that emails came out, like the email in general and utilization of that. And then you had people who were scamming, being Nigerian princes or anything else to get people's money out of it. Now, I don't know at the time because I was too young, but I'm sure that some people would have been like, man, why would you use email? Because these people are going to scam you. There's scammers there. So I think in any system, you're going to have bad people doing bad things. It's not like you can build a system where you're going to have no bad people. Well, just remove humans altogether then at that point. But you're going to have bad people doing bad things. Blockchain, Bitcoin, etc. is not going to be any different. You're going to have them doing Ponzi schemes. I don't think that the whole structure itself is a Ponzi scheme in itself. Like, it's not built in that way. But you could have bad people. You could have bad people taking it to an effect that makes it really terrible. And I think that was the other one that, not really that I stumble across anything that really talked about like the downfall of crypto being this, but in my mind it would be bad people, or people doing bad things or changing their rationale really badly. So let's look at you got ADA.
You mean good people sort of turning bad? Or
maybe people who have been pretending to be good actually being the opposite. Like, let's say all of a sudden you got Cardano, you've got Ethereum. So I'm not talking Bitcoin here, but you're talking some of the larger cryptocurrencies where maybe Vitalik, maybe you've got Charles, you've got whoever the other guys are. All of a sudden they're like, you know what? I actually like having more of a centralized power here. Or what if all of a sudden who knows? They get like some government entity that's like, actually, we're taking all of this, or you're going to jail, and we're going to take all the enforcers, like your developers and everyone working on the EVM machine and blah, 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 all that sort of stuff. And all of a sudden it is like centralized, and it's like, oops, okay, if you do have bad people powering it on, okay, I could see some downfall there, or people splitting away to use something else. And I haven't seen that be discussed just as much, which is a shame, because I feel like that line of conversation would be a much stronger one than, everybody using it is a thief and a terrorist. I'm like, okay, I feel like that's less so than probably what could be seen as turning good people bad, or just people doing bad things.
Yeah, okay. I'll touch upon that once we go through the Boostagrams. A couple of last comments were just from Justin was saying, ultimately, I totally get the want for people to invest your money into something that has good interest. We all used to invest our money into banks with decent interest. That's gone now. Can you even remember a time when it was good interest?
Good interest?
Justin's a little bit older than us, so...
Well, when we think good interest, what is good interest? Like, is good interest 3%, 4%, 5%?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
I'm thinking he's probably talking in the almost double digits range, if I had to guess.
Was it ever double digits?
I don't know.
Please tell me. I'm pretty sure it's never been double digits.
Really?
That would be insanity.
I'm pretty sure it's
10% APY? That would be insane.
Yeah. I would have thought it would have been at some point. I seem to remember something like that. Could be wrong. But yeah, I suppose the thing is, if you're looking at it solely as the money side of things, that would be another really valid concern for me, which was if it was all just money. But for me, I think it's like, no, that is a big chunk of it, but it's changing my behavior to do things that I think are better for the world. So I'm supporting my sort of like favorite artists, like artists and creators more. So I'm moving away from like the advertising model, which I think can be sort of censorious. Like, it's helped me make that decision to be like, no, I don't want any part of that. I don't want any fucking around with meetings and people telling me what I can and can't say.
Yep.
And, using other people's data or other people's sort of interest to capture my little piece of that pie. I don't want anything to do with that. And crypto's allowed me to not do that. In particular, Bitcoin and all the podcasting 2.0 work that's going on.
Yep.
So, if it's solely about the money, that's also like a sort of pinging alarm for me.
Like a bit of okay, that's a bit of an interesting thing.
Did you find out if I was full of shit?
I couldn't really find, because I don't know if it's the deposit interest rate of Australia, because then I'm also getting the interest rate of Australia, because the interest rate of Australia averaged 3.89%, reaching an all-time high of 17.5% in January 1990. But that's how much like interest rates were in terms of like loans.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's
of the actual banks.
Yeah. So I don't know what it would be.
Hard to say. You can get good interest on long-term investment accounts, says Liam. Really? Fuck, I haven't seen any of them, man.
Depends what people think is a good return, though, right? Like if people are looking for like 4, 5%, 6%, sure, I'm sure you can find some long-term, like put your money in, pick it up in like 3 years, 4 years from banks, and you might be able to find them. That might be like a good return.
Man, I haven't even seen that. I'd be interested in those. Liam, if you know them, say them in the comments.
Share them.
You want to get to the Boostagrams one?
Yep, let's have a look.
We'll talk about the actual downfall of crypto.
So let me bring this up for the Boostagram Lounge.
Boostagram Lounge. One other podcast recommendation while you're doing that is this isn't anti-crypto. It's actually very pro-crypto, but Bankless episode 120, Marc Andreessen and Chris Dixon of A16Z. So that one I recommended to you recently, and that one's all about sort of the comparison between the early internet days and the sort of like early crypto days that we're in now.
Yep.
And I found that a pretty compelling arguments going on there. Liam also says, with the email argument, it was very beneficial for business to pick up email. Are business going to be allowed to pick up crypto either themselves or government intervention? Well, I suppose he's asking with that. And that's a very valid concern as well, regulation.
Yeah, well, and I mean, that you were mentioning with Marc Andreessen, we're just talking about it with the one that you'd recommended, right, in that conversation. And it sort of envisioned, so when the encryption conversation happened, 19 whatever it was, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, around that time, if the government had actually said like, hey, by the way, sure, you can sell the higher encryption levels here in the US, but lower encryption levels overseas, if they'd actually gone and said, no, you cannot, because this is, I think you were saying it was at the same level of like, was it like Tomahawk, not torpedoes,
Oh yeah,
like
yeah,
rockets and stuff like that. Like it was like at the same security level as like some like rockets and all this sort of stuff. So what if they'd actually come out and said, hey, no, you can't actually do this because whatever, it's too insecure. Certainly at some point we could get regulated. Like let's say with the crash of Terra Luna and the associated pegging, if some of that pegging had been connected to banks or something else where it really impacts government, could they have come out and been like, okay, now we're going to really heavily regulate because we've just damaged whatever portion that we couldn't control, and now we're really going to control? Maybe. And then I would see maybe not a fall of crypto, but perhaps a forking and a moving away from maybe the existing ones to kind of run away from it.
CBDCs, yay.
Now, the Boostagram Lounge. Now, I've got one here from May 30th, and this is from Dave Jones. He says, great episode. I've also been forcing myself lately to explore ways that Bitcoin can fail. Oh, did I read this already? I think I might have.
Not sure.
Anyways, I don't believe it will, but I think it's important to mine our potential blind spot. This is May 30th. 2,112 sats sent using Castomatic. Can't remember.
No, we wouldn't have.
No, we wouldn't have. Sorry. So no. Yes, that was Dave. 2,112 sats sent using Castomatics, and it's exactly what we're talking about. Really about exploring why Bitcoin can fail.
Yeah, rush boost. Thank you, Dave. Much appreciated. Possibly it's because people have been boosting me on the value for value, because I've been getting quite a few over there. There's one of the reasons why I really like Dave. Really well, like you saw how I imagine myself in like a skinnier version of me. I'm not sure how old he is, but let's just add a decade.
Karen's gained 4 kilos, folks, so he's beefing up. He's beefing up.
Yeah, man. Disappointing. Got to say, a little bit of a sad puppy.
Just Dave, no, just Dave coming through.
Let me fix this up with a sad puppy image on the screen so people can just see how sad we are.
Can have the full force of sadness.
And oh man, look at all these sad puppies that are appearing on the screen now. That is sad indeed. Yeah, so everyone, we do rely on your support to continue the show, to continue my boostagramming on other people's shows, is to sort of spreading the economy around and getting it sort of kickstarted, because it's very slow at the moment. And one of the reasons we kind of encourage it as well is because it's not an investment per se, so it can sort of get you into the feeling,
gets you to the experience of utilization
of it without having to worry about, oh god, it's gone down 100% because whatever. No, it's just I'm already going to lose it anyway, because I'm going to send it to the mere mortals as thanks for being mad dudes.
And then if we lose it, then that's totally fine.
Yeah. Very good. Okay, so what have I taken out from all of this research? Because I don't think I'm going to be doing any more particularly focused anti-crypto stuff like I was doing before.
Yep.
So how did cryptocurrencies fail? So these are my thoughts on how it would fail. If it was going to fail, it would be like this. If people don't take their coins off exchanges, so if you're sort of if you come into it, if like the general population comes into it and they use it exactly like they use banks as it is in its current form. If people only have exposure through ETFs or venture capital trusts, so it's sort of like, I want access to that without owning the underlying thing, I think that's when just all sorts of fucked up stuff goes on, when you've got this extra layer on top. So it's like the VCs are like, yeah, we've got all the Bitcoin, don't worry about it, invest in this trust. And they don't have as much in there because you're sort of trusting them, then I would be saying like, yeah, you really should just be owning the actual thing rather than that. So this is all on like more the investing side. So if there was crypto back guaranteed services pop up, so I think an integral part is If you fuck it up, if you lose it, that's on you, and it needs to stay like that. That's one of the reasons why it's valuable, because you get the control.
I would say, in a weird way, I think that if it was to remain like that explicitly, then I couldn't see how it will become widely used.
Yeah.
Like I go
No faith in humanity, one.
Yeah, well, I just go in my mind. I'm like, so you got your diehard people who will definitely do it for the reasons that it is. You hold your own keys, you hold your own coins, you kind of control it. It's all up to you. But there is that going to general population of what happens when something goes wrong. Now, people who are already in the space and playing in the space, whether it's in NFTs or just generally in Bitcoin or anything in cryptocurrency, you kind of either you know the risk or maybe you're just not across it and you don't know the risk. That if you send it to the wrong address, like goodbye, there goes all your money. You ain't getting it back. That's it, gone. And I don't see how mistakes won't be made, because it's going to be
Everyone makes mistakes, yeah.
And when those mistakes get made, I think that they will scream much louder than successes of holding your own keys. And there was one thing that Gary Vaynerchuk said in a recent podcast, and it was more along NFTs, not cryptocurrencies in general, but he actually said that he kind of would see the next evolution not being like where you buy crypto coins, like exchanges themselves, but some sort of intermediary location where they actually hold things securely, like a bank, but with some sort of mutual connection where, yes, you still own all of your keys, you own everything that's behind it, but you've got some security bounding what your keys are or your NFTs or whatever asset you have in the cryptocurrency, so that it doesn't go missing or assures you that it's not going to get hacked or it's not going to get whatever. In a more, maybe in another way, it's kind of like if you've got a hardware, if you've got a ledger or something that's a hardware wallet, at the moment we've got hot wallets. Could you have some sort of cloud-based thing where it is like having a hardware wallet, but it is protected by some other companies, and not that they own the assets and the things, the keys or anything that comes behind it, but they're built in such a way that it allows for extra security around those in a digital space. Now, I don't know. I have no idea if that's even like technically a thing or not to be able to do. But the move of your keys, your coins, everything moving towards hardware wallets and the like, because you want to protect that, that disincentivizes you to utilization as transaction or P2P. Like, imagine if people who've got hardware wallets, right? Are you going to be moving your hardware wallet into your laptop to bring over Satoshis to be able to pay for things? Or are you going to keep that in a hot wallet? You're probably going to keep it a hot wallet. So I think there's some levels to security and levels of how people keep their coins that has to probably change for me to see like really general, like really super broad adoption. If not, then I can only see it being operated in like an assets perspective, and then people kind of holding it away from the system.
Yeah.
In that operation, in a similar way, it's the same conversation that happens in the NFT space, because they go, well, NFTs are the access, they're the key, right? But I've seen it now like so often where it's like you'll see on the Discord channel or something else like, oh, if you want to go to this website, you have to connect with this NFT. Oh shit, my NFT's in a hardware ledger because that's where it's protected. Okay, now I've got to move it to a hot wallet and I've got to go and do this and make sure that I don't get absolutely scammed and taken advantage of. I kind of see it as like there's got to be some intermediary. It doesn't have to be a bank, and it might maybe it's like some sort of you control also the security, but has some overarching way where someone's helping you control some of these things so you don't go and lose all your money in a much more decentralized way. So I'm not in all of this. I'm not saying like, well, we just need a banks for Web3. It's it's like some sort of better decentralized banks that are more there to secure from a security perspective, movement perspective, a surety perspective. And I think then it'll end up being some key back to governments, because governments worldwide are always going to be like, well, we have no control over it. At some point, some layer is going to have to come in that helps connect with governments and still leaves that decentralized way behind it. Or else it's going to be, it just feels like too much of a pull and push between governments want it to be more centralized and then everyone else wanted to be like extreme decentralization.
Yeah.
I think somewhere in the middle sits like the successfulness of utilization with it.
Yeah, well, I think my argument to that would be we've had the centralizing just going on for the past, I don't know, feels like 10 years maybe. Let's just say that. And this is the sort of pushback to bring us back to that more middle section. And this is why you would need people to really be taking the sort of like responsibility, I guess. I think like a bit of more enhanced responsibility for the individual is what's needed now. So once again, you know, when I'm sort of saying all this, I probably should be saying for like the next 5-10 years, this is what I think would if these things didn't happen, then that would be me going, okay, this isn't what I thought it was. This isn't going to change the world in the way that I thought it was. And you're correct. Like there is a difference as well between how you handle money in, and I'm talking about a physical wallet like I do now with you know, I don't know how much is in there, $80 worth of fiat, and a debit card which has a couple hundred on it maybe, or a credit card, whichever you prefer. That sort of security that is in there is very different than what is in my sort of main bank accounts. And I'd sort of argue that a similar sort of thing. You'd want your main stuff. I think that's where you need the real personal responsibility. But hell, man, I own there's a couple of custodial nodes. The Fountain app, for example, you can put in your non-custodial, so i.e. you own it. But in this case, no, it's fine. Like I'm playing around with it. It's okay if I lose the, I don't know, $20 worth of Bitcoin that's
sitting in there.
So there is, I suppose when I was saying that, I was more imagining the serious investment that you might put into it, i.e. your savings, and I guess like even the hard work that you do, i.e. like a salary maybe that you would get in the future. In that case, I would want to see more sort of personal responsibility. So, if crypto started getting like AAA rating systems, sort of, you know, think of like The Big Short, where it's like this crypto AAA
it ain't gonna drop. Like people would have said Luna would have been like AA or something like that. They would have been like, this can't fail. This cannot fail. Crashes.
And like you were talking about the NFTs, like if a more aping mentality it becomes more prevalent than a doing your own research one, then I would be like, oh man, there's just too many non-thinking people getting into this for it to it just feels then more like gambling than it does the start of the utilization. Because again, I think often if I see NFTs, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of really good use cases that I could see being applied. And we're not there yet because we're in the phase of everybody just putting out pictures and creating Discord channels and creating groups. And that's like a part of that. Pets.com for how, you know, selling pets.com forever, how many millions.
Exactly. And the same thing that like
there's nothing behind it yet.
Exactly. And in the same way that everything crashed in the .com burst, and then, you know, yes, Amazon was there for $6 and all these other things were available. It's like a lot of things going and died, and then really good successful stuff came out of it. Now, there could be, like, again, I'm sure for sure that everything's going to crash in a really hard way, especially in the NFT space, maybe more so in the crypto from what we are right now. But eventually it's going to be one of those things where, yes, but still the fundamental things are still there, so you can just continue to build on it, and people forget really the pricing of it. I think I've always had this in mind, that I think that if cryptocurrency or NFTs or anything like that stays with the money in mind, like, oh, I'm going to make 3,000%, or it's worth $100,000 or $1 million. Like, if that mindset remains, then I don't see a big successful, because it's like, the underlying technology itself is powerful, and there's utilizations to that. And like, what would happen if it was just flatlined, like it was just $1,000 forever, right? Would people keep utilizing it? And I think at the short term, probably not. People would be like, what the hell? I'm not gonna make any money. And it would probably expel out a lot of that. And then perhaps a lot of we can build on this technology to build companies and do things, would then prevail. And then you'd go on your merry way. Because then you truly have like some sort of digital currency that can be utilized.
Yeah, yeah. One thing I wanted to add just to that was pretty much everything we've been saying has been the muddy side of things. So, blockchain tech can still be widely successful without the money. Decentralized identity, supply chain transparency, quality assurance, quality control, fun, straight up fun, random coins, Hosky, NFT games, those sorts of things. All of those things are valuable in themselves without needing the money part of it. So even if, the money side of things, it just became non-dominant, that's when I would still say like the idea of everyone having access and that not being behind closed doors, that essentially it's just open source. Like it's the same thing, like open source software, having that ability and you being able to use it. Yes, it might not be the Facebook of the world, but man, there's a couple of really cool open source things. I use a couple of open source, Castopod for the podcast hosting and things like that. It's like a new way of open source, I guess, or open source software and almost like open source companies perhaps in the future with DAOs. So why I don't think it will collapse is it's almost like the responsibility aspect of it. I think it's really in there. So, I'm responsible for securing the network, safeguarding my funds, doing the research, understanding principles, risk management, testing before large payments, paying when gas fees are reasonable. All of that is on me. And I sort of I want to bet on the individual human. And I think giving them more ability to make all of those decisions themselves, that's sort of why I'm in it. I think there'll be more freedom in a way in the future if all of these things go to plan.
Yep.
Yeah. So that was sort of my main arguments for and the downfall, I guess. So if the downfall was going to happen, it would be I would have less responsibility for things in my life. Whereas now, man, you better believe I'm careful with my seed phrases and have clicking on random links in a random Discord server. I'm a bit more careful of that than
the only other way that I could think also for me that it would lead to a downfall is if the speed of transformation outpaces the speed of education of general population, general individuals. So if there's enough things that are changing in cryptocurrencies in the space faster than you can even teach people how to do it and utilize and operate in it, then there's no way that you're going to get a bulk of people going into it. You're only going to have the hardcore people who are investing inordinate amounts of time to ensure that they keep up to date. Like if all of a sudden, half a year from now, Bitcoin, I don't know, one of the cryptocurrencies forks and you have to change all the way that you have your wallet and you have to change the way you do addresses and all this sort of stuff. And you're halfway through teaching somebody how it works currently, and all of a sudden it changes all over again. It's like, whoa, okay, this is not going to operate effectively. I can see that right now in NFTs. Like things are just changing so quickly. Like they change like weekly in how they do mints, how they do allow lists, how they do, is it a free mint? What should you be looking for? You're using Discord, no Discord. Twitter's, what's a rug? What does a rug look like? How are you going to get scammed? And by the time I start teaching somebody, probably, what is going on here and how to operate, it's already probably changed. So it's like, well, that's completely outpaced it.
Yep.
It's going so fast that onboarding people is going to be a near impossibility, where it didn't feel like that a year ago. So if that continues in that sort of pace, I go, well, that's going to be a supreme struggle to try to get people to come on into that space as well. So that would also exhibit to me that there might be a downfall there when things are just completely running out of control at like breakneck speeds that nobody can keep up and teach anybody.
Yeah.
Because in
the space
of like credit cards, when credit cards came out, there was a lot of people who were like, no, I don't want to go on a website and pay for something. Like, are you crazy? I'm not putting on my credit card details. Someone's going to steal that. Even though that does happen, but by the by, there's security in place so it doesn't happen. Trying to get someone, like anyone who's listening to us right now on the chat or anybody afterwards or in most of the internet, someone who's maybe older generation or the like, if you said to them, hey, you can send us Satoshis if you just upload this and just send us through, and that's how you can support us in a Boostagram. But by the time we say this to you, it like already changes the way that you actually move the money over. There's going to be no trust left in people to be like, well, how in the world am I supposed to be knowing this if it already changes by the time I check this in? It like reminds me of, I was doing earlier trying to put a leaderboard on our website so we could see like the list of how people are sending through Boostagrams and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I actually watched a video of last year. It was a 2021 video, late 2021, of Wix on how to do it. Already Wix have changed so much that the web, like I can't follow it because it's all changed so much. Yeah. It's completely different. So that level, I'm like, okay, they've put a helpful guide to how to do it. It's already changed too much that I can't follow it anymore. I'm going to kind of have to do it on my own and I can't get it to work.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, this is frustrating. So in a similar way, the core concept of Bitcoin isn't changing. That in itself, like being immutable, being decentralized, all the things totally stay the same. But if the way that you operate in the world with it changes really rapidly, then I'd be like, okay, how are you ever expecting anyone to be P2P on this if it's changing that insanely quickly? Gotcha. And I'd be like, well, okay, this is too much change. Too much change. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, that can be a problem as well.
That's a good argument as for a good anti-argument as well. Yeah. Do you want to lead us out, Juan? Have you got any other remaining thoughts?
No final thoughts. Any other comments in the list there that we want to tackle? Or
no, Liam was just asking about the links, so I will put them in the show notes of this if you're watching the video, and then they will have been appearing up on your screen as you're watching, if you're listening
on a good
audio
on a good
podcasting app,
which leads us to a good posting app. So again, as Karen mentioned at the very beginning, Boostagrams is our lifeblood. We called out Dave Jones, of course. Thank you very much for the 2,112 sats. But you can also get involved, be immortalized. And again, what we're talking about is we're not saying sell your house and buy Bitcoin and give it to us. What we're saying is put a mortgage on your house, get some money out and give it to us. But no. You can just buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. We're talking dollars here, like $10, $20. And muck around, play around with the new podcasting apps, Podcasting 2.0 apps. Utilize it. I like Fountain. There's tons of others. You can check our website, top right corner. You can see our podcast and there's different ones.
Yep.
Basically, you want to just go through the process of uploading it, sending through a Boostagram, streaming, listening to some of the others. Go check out the Value for Value podcast and how other podcasts, not just ours, are doing the Value for Value sort of conversation, talk, and trying to get people onto it. But really, that's all for now. I think we've enjoyed conversing about why crypto would fall. I think I'm going to just generally summarize being like, I still don't think that it's going to fail. There's nothing that impresses upon me that it's going to fail. But it's good to see those things to say, if I start seeing this happen, there's going to be like my guiding lights that I've got to be like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be absolutely betting everything onto this because maybe it's not going to be the right thing.
For sure. And especially just for the next 5-10 years after that, it's just like any other technology. Eventually it'll just get obsolete because we'll, I don't know, be just injecting consciousness into each other. And it's like, that's the most valuable thing.
True.
So
exactly.
We don't even need this bullshit coin or address or whatever.
Yeah, why do we need that if we already have it all in whatever 4D land, metaverse land, whatever?
Yeah, in like literal electrons. How many electrons do you have?
That's what's going to be valuable. Start hoarding your electrons, folks. And with that, we're going to finish it off. Me and Morton Lines. Thank you very much. Juan out.
Byron out.
Good. Good. Thank you very much.
Thanks everyone. Thanks Liam online for doing that because I might have forgot that. So I'll be updating that in the next half an hour. So if you want the links for those, they'll be in the YouTube comments. Not in the YouTube comments, in the YouTube description, and I'll have them labeled out and clear and whatnot. So should be relatively easy to find. Hey Justin, thank you. Have a great next week. We will do, and you too, man. You too. Hope everything is going well for you in Sydney. Hope you're not freezing your ass off. Because I'm freezing my ass off here in Brisbane.
It has been freezing.
It's like nothing up here. Justin's so funny, man.
Justin,
his weekly rants. He gets into
his Monday weekly rants.
I have no idea what he's going to talk about each week.
It's that different.
Yeah, sometimes it'll be this next game he's playing. Then he's like, guys, big news. I've implemented a new thing in my routine. I'm going to clean up on Wednesdays. And he talks about that for 10 minutes.
I like it.
I love it. Hey, thank you, Joey. All right. Peace out, everyone.
Thank you, folks.